Hello, welcome to my channel. I am Askarina and today I'm going to share my scholarship journey from nothing to Chevening. It's kind of tacky. This video will be uploaded in two parts, and right now I'm going to talk about the whole process from the beginning, applying, until I get the scholarship. And on the second part of the video, I'm going to discuss more about tips and tricks of essay writing, interview, basically anything content related to the scholarship application itself. So let's start with the first part. So I started my journey in 2016. I was already working a full-time job at the time, and I knew I wanted to pursue a master's degree. I knew what I wanted to study about. I was very interested in gender studies, and my background was in communications. So I started looking into universities and programs, master's programs that actually offer the two. I also knew that I was going to need a scholarship because financially, neither me nor my family can afford funding my master's degree. So when I was shortlisting the university program, in parallel, I also researched scholarship opportunities. And so I started to list all the university programs completed with the scholarship that can actually fund my study. In the beginning, that's what I did. I mapped all the possible scholarship and university programs that I can apply to and that I want to apply to before I actually start the application process. I think this is very important for you who also want to seek scholarship, to just map the opportunities that you can apply to, both the scholarship and the university. I also made an Excel sheet to help me figure out which deadlines come first. So after I map all the possibilities, I decided to apply to 4 scholarships: the Fulbright Scholarship, Chevening Scholarship, Swedish Institute Scholarship, and LPDP. Indonesians might know this. It's the Indonesian Endowment Scholarship Fund, if I'm not mistaken. That's their English name. But that's basically a scholarship program from the Indonesian government given to Indonesian nationals who want to study abroad. There are basically 3 main documents that you need. The first document is motivational letter, or some people call it personal statement. It is basically an essay containing why you want to study this program, why this scholarship, why this country. So you have to answer all the whys. The second is English language certificate. If you're coming from a English speaking countries like mine, I am Indonesian, so if I wanted to study in a university with an English curriculum, I needed that. Some organizations would ask for IELTS or TOEFL, or both are acceptable. It depends. And third is letter of recommendation. This recommendation can come from your boss or your manager, and also from your old professor in your bachelor's degree. After figuring out that these 3 documents are basically the main thing that I needed to have, I started that process. I started writing my motivational letter, and then I started studying IELTS, and then I also started to talk to my boss and talk to my old professor about my intention to pursue my master's degree abroad. So the very first scholarship that I applied to was Fulbright. It is to study in the US, and I applied in the middle of 2016. I will put in the description box the link to Fulbright website so you can see the exact requirement that they're asking and the exact deadline, but I applied to that first. So after preparing all 3 documents I mentioned before, I submitted it, and unfortunately I got rejected by it. So I moved on. The second scholarship that I applied to, I actually applied to LPDP, the Indonesian scholarship, and Chevening around the same time in parallel because their deadline was kind of close to each other, but I was very focusing on LPDP. LPDP asked a very extensive list of documents. I'm pretty sure they're asking for different documents now, but at the time I submitted all 3 documents I mentioned before and some other documents like permit from your boss and also like a medical certificate from local hospital that you don't have, tuberculosis. Long story short, I got rejected by LPDP. I only got into their second round, which was the interview round, but I didn't actually get the scholarship. I applied for the Swedish Institute in the beginning of 2017. Long story short, again, I was rejected by the Swedish Institute. Mind you that during all this scholarship process, not only I was preparing the 3 documents for each of the scholarship, like I mentioned before, I was also preparing and writing essays for university applications. And in this video, I'm not going to talk about university application, but basically university would ask the same thing: personal statement, your English proficiency certificate, and recommendation letter. To be honest, in total, I'm not sure how many documents that I have created for each scholarship and each university, because obviously I had to customize each essay in the Word document to make it very focused. I'm going to explain about that in the second part of the video, but that's basically how the application process was. I am probably biased, but I think the application process for Chevening is the most simple and the easiest to follow out of all the other scholarship programs. I submitted my online form in November. What you needed to do in their online application is to answer 5 questions. That question's equivalent to the motivational letter or the personal statement. They will ask you things like, why do you want to study in the UK? What program do you want to study? Why that program? What was your work and educational background and all that kind of stuff. You can definitely check it on their website that I'm going to put in the description box below. And you also have to prepare for the English certificate, and also you have to prepare for a recommendation letter from your boss. That was basically it, and everything was done online. So after you submit your application, you just have to wait. I waited around 2 months to get the email saying that I got shortlisted for an interview. The interview was taking place at the British Embassy in your respective countries. And I did the interview in March or April. So after you get the email, you actually have to wait again. After that, I waited maybe around 2 months, 2.5 months, to finally get the scholarship. I get the email in June telling me that I got the Chevening scholarship. It was remarkable. When I got that email, I was just like, what? I couldn't believe it for the life of me, even until now. The process was quite simple. You just have to submit online and wait it for them to tell you that you got shortlisted, go to the interview and wait until they tell you that whether or not you get the scholarship. Based on my experience, there are several things that you really need to pay attention to when applying to the Chevening scholarship. The first is your essay answers. So the 5 questions I mentioned before, you really have to read through your answers, review it, rewrite it, revise it. So basically you can send them the best version of your essay. And the second part is the interview part. So you have to really practice, because the judges will look at your essay answers while they question you during the interview. So you have to remember what you wrote. The third part is picking the right program and the right university. If you might not know, Chevening is actually in partnership with a lot of organizations and a lot of UK universities in funding the scholars every year. So for example, I got accepted by LSE, and LSE actually funded my tuition fee. You can look on the Chevening websites, the list of UK university partners. They also partner with some private companies that also help fund the scholarship. Overall, the whole process from the beginning, applying, until I get the Chevening scholarship took me about 1.5 years. To be quite honest, in comparison to the journey of others, I think that's quite, if not moderate, that's quite fast. So I consider myself quite lucky to secure this Chevening scholarship in one go. So if you wanted to apply for a scholarship, you know that you have to start at least a year or 1.5 years before the actual academic year starts. To be quite honest, that 1.5 years was probably one of the hardest years in my life, because I was working full-time and I was preparing for a bunch of documents, and I was studying for my IELTS, the English certificate test. I also tried to re-establish my relationship with my old professor, and I tried to ask my boss. There's just so much thing going on during that 1.5 years. And during 2016, I actually got rejected by 2 scholarships, Fulbright and LPDP, and then in the beginning of 2017, I was rejected by the Swedish Institute. The rejection from LPDP was the hardest for me, because at the time I really put all my effort, my mind and heart into it, because I was very confident then, but I got rejected. So I moved on. But thankfully, I got accepted by in the middle of 2017. So that was amazing. For the life of me, I still can't believe it, even until now, that I got that scholarship. That was basically my whole scholarship journey, from the beginning, applying, to finally getting the Chevening scholarship. Currently, I am settling back in Jakarta. I just moved back around a month ago, and the whole experience was still so surreal. So if you want to know more about my tips and tricks for writing essay, interview, and anything content related while applying for a scholarship, stay tuned for my next video, and I hope you enjoy this one. Thanks for watching!